So, Bleach has returned, and it's more popular than it's ever been, and for good reason. The anime turned out really good despite the small problems I may have with it. While I commend the anime for being a faithful adaptation to the manga, there's still the issue of the final arc of Bleach being a bit of a complete mess to begin with. Before the Bleach fanboys crawl into my comments, I want you to know that Bleach is my favorite out of the big three, and possibly my favorite shonen manga. I'm not a Bleach hater. I was severely disappointed reading the final arc of the manga from week to week, and while yes, as time has gone on, I've come to appreciate it a lot more, it's still kind of a hot mess at its worst, and at best, a good arc that squanders its potential to be truly great, at least from a storytelling aspect. One of the biggest points of wasted potential lies in the characterization of its main antagonist, Juhabach, and his legion of Quincy's. For those who don't know, in the newest season of Bleach, it covers the 1,000-Year Blood War, an arc in which the Soul Reapers fight the Quincy's. 1,000-Year Blood War refers to the fact that the Quincy's were genocided by the Soul Reapers 1,000 years ago. The reason the Soul Reapers genocide the Quincy's is a bit complicated, but to sum it up, the Quincy's were saving lives, but if they would continue these actions, they would destroy the world. The Soul Reapers couldn't have that, and through failed negotiations, they figured their only option was genocide, logically. If that wasn't bad enough, after the genocide, they decided to watch every surviving Quincy to make sure they don't die out, or to make sure they don't continue their world-ending actions. However, there was one high-ranking Soul Reaper that would make sure the remaining Quincy's would not get the help they need in an emergency, and pay off officials so that he could experiment upon their souls. These experiments were on par with the horrific Nazi experimentation on Jews. This is just a short overview on the war crimes committed by the Shinigami upon the Quincy's. You would think, with this much ammunition against the Soul Reapers, the Quincy would have a justified vendetta against the Soul Reapers, and in fact, they'd be a sympathetic villain that the audience could connect to. You would be wrong for thinking that. Because for some reason, almost every Quincy we run into is a homicidal maniac who finds pleasure in tormenting and killing Shinigami and Quincy's. And this is where the wasted potential lies. Instead of getting a sympathetic villain with which we could connect to, we get transgender roach girl who enslaves even her own friends. A girl that, when she is angry, she literally fools men into thinking she wants to have sex with them so she can bisect them. And of course, their leader, who would kill any Quincy at the drop of a hat if it meant a power-up. Alright, so how do we fix this? It's so easy that it makes me angry that Kubo didn't go this route in the first place. You can keep some of the crazier and psychopathic Quincy's the same, that's fine, but maybe have the older ones talk a bit more about the Soul Reaper oppression. Make it so that more than a few of the ones that are there because of a genuine hatred for Shinigami for the crimes they committed in the past. That's another issue I failed to bring up. Most of the named Quincy's do not have a stated or implied reason that they even joined the war effort to begin with. Don't believe me? Ask yourself, why did Kangdu join the war effort? Why exactly did any of the Sternritter join up and decided to fight for Juhabach? We never get a reason. Just look at their wiki pages too. It doesn't say much about their character or motivations for why they fight, or even how they joined the Sternritter in the first place. The Sternritter are some of the most popular and recognizable Quincy's in the entire series.
Admittedly, Bambietta is my favorite Quincy girl within the Sternritter.
And we do not know a damn thing about them other than the fact that they're all murderers. You can say the Arrancar had flimsy or short motivations, but at least they had them. Stark was a sad boy who was so strong, most hollows couldn't come near him. He just wanted friends. Haribel was a literal feminist who wanted to protect female hollows from the predatory male hollows. Although I didn't think hollows had any reproductive organs to begin with. The point being, despite this being the final arc of Bleach, and by association, you'd expect it to be the best. The villains have the flimsiest characterizations out of the 3 villain factions our protagonist has been stacked up against. My solution would fix that problem easily by having some of them either witness war crimes committed by the Soul Society, or at least be told about them, fueling a hatred in their heart, so much so that they would go on a war campaign to destroy the Soul Society. I want you to imagine, instead of Candace getting mad on the battlefield because her hair got messed up, imagine her furious while fighting because she had to watch her father get devoured by a hollow because the Shinigami were too late to eliminate it. With backstories or motivations like that, you'd actually be able to sympathize with the Quincy's on a level you couldn't even with the Iran car. And now that we fixed the Quincy's, I'm going to fix Juhabach. This is a point where you want to click off the video if you haven't finished the Bleach manga / haven't read Can't Fear Your Own World. Spoilers are ahead. Okay. Ready? Throughout the series, we don't get much character out of Juhabach. Sometimes we get the idea that he, quote, hates conflict. I'll get into that later. He seems a bit arrogant. He doesn't seem to have a genuine hate for the Soul Reapers either. We do know he doesn't care at all about the men under his command or his race of people, the Quincy's, because he is constantly killing them and absorbing their powers to enhance his own. As it stands, he is a very unsympathetic villain. Only at his defeat do we get a semblance of his motivation behind the entire war. His end goal was to merge all the realms so that no living creature would fear death. When I first read this, I thought it was stupid. I get it. Death is scary, but it's necessary to avoid stagnation. On top of that, most of the creatures within the world of Bleach already know that death is not the end based on their very own existence. The entire Soul Society is a realm that is comprised of dead niggas. I can't imagine the lot of them fearing death nearly as much, knowing that they just end up reincarnated in the world of the living. Originally, I was going to put forth a fix for Juhabach's character based off of information we've received from the Can't Fear Your Own World novels, but after rereading the chapter where Juhabach explains his motivations and watching the first episode of the second core of the 1,000-Year Blood War, I think this is actually what Kubo might have originally intended for Juhabach, but didn't have the time to expand upon it. So I guess I'll call this segment of the video Fixing Juhabach / this might be what Kubo intended originally anyways. Okay, let's rock. Starting out with the first episode of the second core, the first thing our eyes see is semen. One of the sperms becomes Juhabach. Alright, so he was actually made through the horizontal monster mash and not some weird immaculate conception. Perfect. Juhabach's father is the Soul King. The Soul King, although now has no limbs or genitalia, at one point was dealing backshots. The Soul King is a Shiba ancestor who existed back when all the realms were one. At some point, predecessors of the 4 noble families separated the realms, betrayed the Shiba ancestor, removed all his limbs, and used his body as the linchpin of the worlds. His body being the only thing maintaining the balance of souls throughout all the realms and keeping the separation of the realms permanent. Now that we've established the Soul Society's original sin, you can start to see why Juhabach could be motivated to wage a war on Soul Society and destroy the world as we know it. Of course Juhabach would want to ravage the Soul Society. Thousands of years ago they violated his father. Of course Juhabach would want to kill the Soul King. It's almost a mercy kill. Who would want to see their father like that? And of course Juhabach would want to destroy the world, because he wouldn't be destroying the world, he would be returning it back to its original state before the interference of the Shinigami. With these motivations in mind, Juhabach becomes a much more sympathetic villain, and while you won't agree with what he's doing or the outcome he desires, you can at least understand where he's coming from. The problem, if this is what Kubo truly intended, is that you will not be able to put all of this together if you only read the Bleach manga. As stated before, I only know this because I've watched the anime that just came out, and I read the Can't Fear Your Own World novels, which came out after the manga had finished. I'd feel lazy if I just left it at, oh, to fix Juhabach, just add in the supplemental material. So with what we have, we can't do much, but we at least could have seen more emotions come out of Juhabach instead of just smug arrogance. Again, just have more anger directed towards the Soul Society. Little monologues of, wow, I really wouldn't have to do this if y'all didn't string my father up like a puppet, or I will make sure the Soul Society pays for their original sin. Even something like, I will return all the realms back to whence they came. Some poetic, dramatic anime talk like that. As it stands, Juhabach in the manga is just kind of a guy whose end goal is only really revealed at the time of his death, and as a whole, making him feel like a villain whose character never got to bloom throughout the course of the story. Same goes for his army, the Quincy's. And before I close out, I want to give a shout out to The Fourth Snake. I know I stole his video style for this, but I wanted to try my hand at making different kinds of content. Please go check him out. He makes some really good videos on Mortal Kombat. I'm working on a really long video. The next one will be about Solanin, so I hope with all the effort I put into it, people will really connect with it. Other than that, put some suggestions for the next video in the comments and let me know what you thought of this one. Thanks for watching.